Alright, hi. This is SJH Says Games doing a submission video for Unapologetically Black and Fast 2024. We're going to be doing King of Fighters 15 at level 3 story mode, which basically means functionally we're doing arcade mode on default difficulty. We will start the timer basically once we actually get to opening videos and kind of go from there. This submission video, I'll be skipping a lot of like the demo cutscenes and things like that in order to sort of bring the time down a little bit, but we can always let those run to like give more time for color commentary or other kind of like observations about game and how these things work if we need to fill time. So this is basically just kind of that pared down, and if we need to like extend a little bit, we can always go over by letting videos run. But splits will start once the opening video actually starts, which should be once I've done character selection in about 3, 2, 1. Select order. So we're also gonna just kind of go with the default order that I have set up for the team that I'm using, which is what we call an edit team. Rather than using specifically 3 characters that all belong to the same like in-game team, I'm using a selection of characters that I happen to like use and know very well. Rock and Terry have a little bit of a history. TLDR is that Terry and Rock's father Geese, they're not friends. But at one point, Rock was like, me, my dad, no, I'm kind of an orphan. And Terry was like, I'll take care of you, no worries. In KOF specifically, Geese is still alive, but in Fatal Fury, where both Rock and Terry come from, Geese is dead. So in this continuity, it's more like, yeah, Geese at some point kind of just abandoned Rock, and Terry took him in. That's what we know so far, anyway. So yeah, Terry, Andy, and Joe were all in the first Fatal Fury game, which is why they are known as Team Fatal Fury. They were initially Team Italy in the first King of Fighters game, KOF 94. But in most games where there is a Fatal Fury team... Oh, I got hit by the auto combo. That's a surprise. I wasn't expecting the CPU to dump meter that early. There we go. But yeah, ever since KOF 94, which is like the first KOF game, Terry, Andy, and Joe have been considered as Team Fatal Fury, basically, because they're all from Fatal Fury, and they were all in the first Fatal Fury game. There are other Fatal Fury characters in this game. Rock is one of them, for example. All of Team... I forget if it's Team Southtown that they call them in this game. Almost killed. I left out a little bit of damage, that's why I didn't kill. This competitor is too strong. And then next split will be back there. Here. So yeah, case in point, right? Mai is also a superheroine. Right, even though this is Team Superheroines, Mai is also from Fatal Fury. Sometimes, usually traditionally, the quote-unquote ladies team in a KOF is usually Mai, Yuri, and somebody else. If I remember correctly, KOF 94 ladies team was like Mai, Yuri, King. But every now and again they shuffle. Every now and again they shuffle between teams within KOF. Oops, didn't mean to roll there. Meant to do the rest of the combo. Nope. Yeah, an unfortunate thing that this game has kept from KOF 14 that I kind of wish that they didn't was that if you knock out either King or Yuri with a special move or a super move, their clothes shred, and it's not like a... Basically, in the first Art of Fighting, or in Art of Fighting in general as a franchise, all the characters in that game had clothing damage, but for whatever reason, I do not know why, starting from like KOF 13, SNK specifically only left it in for, well, let me rephrase that. I think it might have been in older KOFs, then got taken out, then got put back in. I don't know why. I kind of wish they didn't. Kind of wish they wouldn't do it, but it really literally only happens to it literally only happens to King and to Yuri. And I wish I knew why. I don't. I do not have an answer. Got it.
They absolutely thrashed their opponent in that match. Winner! Select order.
And sometimes, right, you do also happen to get in story mode other mixed teams like this, where they just call it Team KOF, right? The mixed teams can also include the DLC characters. So we have, and this is someone who I haven't fought yet in this game, Duolon as their third. But normally Kula is on, I forget the name of the actual team, but normally this is not Kula. This is not Kula's regular team. Normally she's on a team with Angel, Cronin, and Kula, but I forget what team that is.
An exciting bout from round 1. Round 2. Ready? Go!
So yeah, because of that, it's a little mixed. So Kula normally is like normally a really good like space control character who excels a lot in normally like Kula's like a really annoying space control character who's like really good at like pokes and otherwise like kind of just like being a pest in terms of just like poking you out a lot and scooping you with combos and things like that. Good Kula players are really, really obnoxious to deal with for that reason. That's not safe, but they're not going to punish, so it's fine. So this, something that you may see me doing a lot in this game in particular is that unlike in Street Fighter or a lot of other fighting games where jumping is like a thing that you can do, KOF very deliberately has what are called hops, which are much shorter jumps that you can use to kind of like get in very quickly. And so the main thing with KOF is that while you still sort of play footsies the way that you would in like a fighting in other fighting games, you also have to kind of consider the KOF zone, right? Which is this little space sort of right in front of your character and how you sort of like keep people out of it.
Not going down without a fight.
And so kind of like the main thing there is that you want to when you're defending the KOF zone, use a lot of like jabs up here and things like that to help check people who are jumping at you. But the main thing about hops is that, like, you see how, how I have like moves that are sort of like low hitting like that, for example. It is very easy to it is very easy to use a hop to kind of like get over low attacks like that, and that's what they're useful for. Yeah. This, for example, is like a normal traditional team in KOF, Team Hero. Though normally who is on Team Hero is usually different between like what we call sagas of KOF, which is like basically what the current story arcs basically. So, in this particular case, the team hero of KOF 14 and KOF 15 are mostly the same. The new protagonist for this arc, Shune, and his friend Meitenkun are basically are the two members of Team Hero from both KOF 14 and 15 that have stayed. But their third member has been different both years. In KOF 14, their third member was another Fatal Fury character, Tung Furu. But in this one, their third character is the one I just beat, Benimaru Nikaido, who is specifically a character that was made for King of Fighters. Along with the rest of the original Team Japan, who's basically like sort of like the original. You could sort of say they weren't really the original hero team. I'm sorry. Team Japan was the initial team of protagonists. Is the better way to put it in KOF. But Team Hero has traditionally been anyway. Usually the protagonist team, but not always. Oops. Messed up there. So you still do have like regular height jumps in KOF, but they're a little more of a commit than they are in other games. And ideally what you want to do is hop when you can. Sometimes you do want to do the full jump. It's not that you never do full jumps, but that most of the time when like you're in regular gameplay, you're doing full hops. You're doing hops, right? So you can either do like these shorter range hops like this, or hyper hops like this, kind of cover more ground. Gonna burn a little meter here to get the knockdown, and I got hit by a Shadow Strike, but it's okay because they didn't follow up. So Shune's main thing, right, as you can see, are those like really just big hands that he uses to help cover space. His normals outside of that, like his other buttons to attack with, are still pretty good. Because KOF only has 4 attacking buttons as opposed to like Street Fighter's like 6, a lot of the utility of buttons tends to get condensed in a lot of ways, not like a bad way. It just mostly means that like you have different tools in your toolkit to work with. So like Elisabeth, who I just got to use for the first time this run, her main thing is that while her normals are very awkward looking in some aspects, they do happen to reach pretty far. So yeah, we have, at this point we're at stage 5 out of 8, so we have 5, 6, 7, 8. We have like another 4. So the semifinals, the finals, the mid boss, and the final boss. So the reason, and Kim normally is normally part of like a justice team or something similar, but for this KOF he is a he's what we call a solo entry as a DLC character, which means that he basically doesn't have a team this time out. But Kim's whole thing is all about Taekwondo. He also has like a whole justice thing going on with him. Kim has basically never been bad in a KOF game, or even in like a Fatal Fury game where like his original sort of like origin is. Kim has basically been at least mid tier, if not better, in any single game that he's in. I got dumped. That's fine. Ramon is... I can't really speak to like Ramon's like placement or strength as a character in terms of like, oh, how good is he generally, but generally speaking, Ramon's whole thing is that he is an example of kind of like how the move didn't come out that I wanted. Spend a little more meter than I meant to, but we'll make it work. Ramon in particular is an example of how KOF kind of like chose to do something different with the grappling archetype. If Goro Daimon was in this game, you would see somebody a lot closer to like, oh yeah, big slow grappler. But with characters like Shermie and Ramon and even Clark to a certain extent, especially after they like worked on some of the other stuff, grapplers in this game tend to be at least slightly more mobile than most. Clark is a really prime example of that. If you watch me stream this game sometimes and I fight a Clark, sometimes it's just me go, ah, damn, it's Clark. And it's mostly just because while the CPU is not super good at showing it off, once Clark gets a knockdown with like that command throw, a skilled Clark player will basically do that, hop at you, do some other stuff, or if he manages to get his, if he gets like other setups for things like that, you kind of just wind up eating a lot of shit. It's not great if you don't know how to deal with it. Or rather, pardon, you eat a lot of, my bad, slipped a little there. It's kind of funny that we get Team Rival as the last fight before the mid boss, and you will see why that is in a minute. But Hydern is kind of like Guile from Street Fighter in that he has really, really good normals. Like, as you can see, they're really, really long. His command grab is kind of like a hit attack that also does steal health from you. But yeah, Hydern's main thing, especially against like a good Hydern player, is that he will in fact like just reach out with the limbs and just swat you a lot, whether you like it or not. And so the thing about fighting against Hydern is that if you jump at him too much when he has like charges ready and things like that, much like with Guile, he will just wall you out. Isla is a little bit more in the unlike Shanae, who can like kind of like do a lot of like ranged attacking relatively easily with his hands. Isla is much more of a character who focuses on like wrong move. Isla as a character kind of focuses more on like hit and run tactics with mobility, which is fitting because she is as basically the head of Team Rival. She is supposed to be like the she's supposed to be the counterpart to Shanae's style of fighting. So whereas Shanae is like a lot of like spacing and range control with like a couple of dash-ins, Isla is sort of the opposite, where it's like she uses a lot of her momentum to get her in. And Dolores is interesting because she's also a little bit of like zoning and space control, but she also has like a command throw or two to really kind of like throw into things. And then we see one of the other highlights of KOF. Oh, I died. We see one of the other highlights of KOF, which is that if you hit your opponent with a desperation move, aka like a super, if you hit them with like the level 1 version, you can then go, if you have enough meter, go into a level 2 and dump even more meter and do even more damage. There is an even more like, no, I'm throwing all the meter at you sort of variant of handling things, which we will probably not actually get to see that much of, because with the final boss, you don't really have the time or the space to do it, really. If you try to fight the final boss fair and square, it's doable, but it takes a lot more work. And for speedrunning purposes, like, we are trying to do the cheese. Alright, now I got popped out of the air a couple times because I was getting hasty, so that's my fault. But even with the health regen that you get in between matches, which depends on like how much health, how much time is left on the clock when you knock out your opponent, I can still get the kill, so I'm not super worried about it. Case in point. Dead. And that's why I keep Shermie on anchor, because the main thing, well, two things. One is that anchor Shermie is going to help us cheese this, next fight much easier. I'm only going to let this play long enough to show why it's appropriate that we fought this team. It is not guaranteed that you will fight Team Rival as in the grind finals, but long enough just to show this. So yeah, that's why it's appropriate that we fight, that this time anyway, we were lucky enough to pull, the rival team. So yeah, this is the mid-boss of King of Fighters 15, Reverse. Basically, Isla's power ran out of control and used her as a template and became Reverse. So this is not like Isla were fighting herself. It's her powers like run out of control, basically. So because Reverse is by itself, it does have, I think, or I might be wrong about this actually, I'd have to double check later. But Reverse fighting by itself, does hit pretty hard, but I don't think that it has more HP than most other characters do, so we should still be fine. As long as I don't get, like, careless. Just gonna watch it a little bit. As you can see, still pretty vulnerable to, like, sweeps at the right distance anyway. We just gotta be patient.
That was a nail-biter! Keep an eye on this matchup!
Then after Reverse is defeated, we then wind up with the actual final boss of the game, or at least of arcade mode. I'll show it just long enough for y'all to see what she looks like, and then we are about to cheese the fuck out of her, because or cheese the hell out of her rather. Because fighting her honestly is not a good idea. Do not don't fight her honestly at all. And so key to this strategy is to use Shermie up front. This is basically the strategy that I'm about to use is pretty much next to like sweeping her the best way to deal with it. So the main thing about a lot of KOF bosses is that they don't have a crouching animation or things like that, which means that actively telling whether or not they're going to do like overheads or lows is kind of a pain. However, Otomoraga has one particular flaw, which is that command throws, she just doesn't know how to deal with them at all. So all we're gonna do is quite literally, oops, messed up the input. So we're not gonna get it perfect because I messed up the input by like one little bit, unfortunately. But oops. Right, don't get cheeky, Sean. Just do it. See, I would like, so yeah, sweeps and command throws. She loses too. Pretty easily.
And that's
So yeah, with cutscenes played out, this extends to like 30 minutes or so on difficulty 3. Difficulty 5, I did try it, and it's like, whew, it's a bunch. But yeah, 23 minutes. Overall, just like a nice little chunk of time. Otomoraga cheese makes it a lot easier too. So yeah, if you are gonna play KOF 15 yourself and you're like, I would like to figure out the best way to actually like get through this and figure out how to deal with the last boss, always pick a grappler, because she can't deal with grapples. So yeah, that's my run and submission for Unapologetically Black and Fast 2024. Commentary will more or less be a lot like this, and like I was saying earlier, it is very easy to sort of just like leave in, if we want more lead time or whatever, to just kind of leave in cutscenes and sort of use those as like breaks to talk about stuff or whatever else we need. Thank y'all for your time, and I hope you consider me.